Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you for joining us for another episode of truly insightful and meaningful conversation to help us each through our own transformational journey. Today, we're going to be talking to a gentleman who is juggling being a CEO and a dad to a young girl. We rarely get to hear a father's perspective of juggling business and life and fatherhood as a single dad. And this is going to be truly, truly a unique opportunity for us. He's also an author, somebody who runs a business in the world of government contracting in the sphere of technology. And you may ask, why today? Why on Goldilocks? Goldilocks is all about getting things just right. Even as a young girl, she knew how to make sure what she was eating wasn't too hot and it wasn't too cold. Wherever she sat down, wherever she laid down, she needed to make sure it wasn't too soft and it wasn't too hard. She knew in her little girl's mindset, getting it just right was important. We too knew that when we were little. Somewhere along the way, conditioning of life takes us away, veering off from that course of knowing what is just right for us. And then we start pretending and accepting so that we can please others. And then we lose ourselves in pursuit of what we think other people want. So today's conversation is going to be about a dad, a CEO, and an entrepreneur who's also an entertainer, how he works at getting it just right. May not always work, but we learn, we grow, we regroup, and we retry. Because life is a journey of continuous improvement. And please welcome Jolie to this conversation. Jolie, welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks.
Thank you all. And that was a wonderful intro to this call. I appreciate you all for being here today. And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Jolie. Talking to you and getting to know you professionally and a little bit personally, you always talk about the need to rise above circumstances. Take us back to your childhood in Louisiana. What was that like? And what role did your mom and your Uncle Roosevelt Lee play, in taking a trajectory and shifting it so that you had a fighting shot at something different?
Sure. Well, I tell you, being born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the 70s was really harsh. I was born in 1971, during the time where the Black Panther Party sort of housed their headquarters just on the outskirts of our project, which was the Desire Projects. So that alone speaks enough about what those times were like. You're talking about a period whereas I did not know my father. My understanding in life later is that my father was killed during that time period between 1970 and 1971. It was unfounded that, or whether or not he was a part of the Black Panther Party or not. During those years of coming up, it was about life and survival for the fittest, whether it was your family member, friends, or whomever. Everyone was about survival, and you did what you had to do to survive. It was a time period where years went on, where we lived in the desired projects, that bars were put up between each adjoining building, iron bars that stood about 10 feet high. So you can imagine what that was like for kids, and knowing that, hey, they wanted to lock you in. And in the event that things were going awry or crime was happening, it was sort of a trap, right? Inside of a trap. I think about one of those little mouse traps you go in, or roach traps you go in, but you don't come out, type of things in New Orleans. Growing up as a little kid, you've seen some of the old TV shows where kids would be going to school and you see dead bodies and things of that nature. I had that experience as well, walking to school. So life was really hard in New Orleans coming up. Fast forwarding, as I got moved into high school, this is where the roles of coaches really played a part in the household, where they came to your houses. They saw athletes, they saw good kids. They wanted to make sure, hey, you're not on the streets. And my coach, Coach Wayne Reese, he helped fight that battle and assisted with the families. Hey, your son's not at practice today. Where's your son? And so things like that would happen coming up in New Orleans. My mother had two kids a year apart, and she strove to do the best that she could. She worked at the fairgrounds, she worked in restaurants, and this is all by public transportation of making her way to work every day. We lived in a household with four adults at one point, and two kids, and then three kids, and then four kids over time between her and her sister. Um, During those times, as a child, as a young child, around the ages of 7, 8, 9, between me and my brother, we experienced death firsthand. Our grandmother died in the room with us, and we woke up and she wouldn't move. Brother started crying. I didn't know what to do. He started crying. She didn't move. I shook her, ran to get my uncle Robert Lee at the time, and my mother. And when they came back to the room, she just broke out in screams and tears. And now my brother's just sitting on the bed, he's just screaming. And I'll never forget that. I mean, that's something that still lives with me today. And even with him, where he was just crying and could not stop. And my mother woke up the neighbors as she ran out through the hallway of the building. Um, we moved forward. We moved outside of the projects, right on the outskirts of the project. We lived in an area called Almonaster, and still bad area, right outside on the outskirts of the desired projects. And we lived in shotgun houses, and that means kind of a rectangular shaped house, and the hallway just ran through each room. Right, there's 3 or 4 rooms that just ran through each room, and we lived in a one room, a living room, one room, and a kitchen and a bathroom, and that was it. And life there was no crystal stair. And we did, again, had to do the best that we could. I worked at McDonald's. I worked in the French quarters at restaurants. I found odd jobs, even with the construction folks, even before moving out of the project. At that time, child labor laws, they were just giving you something to do, right? So they would let a kid or two come by and hey, go do this, go shovel the rocks or shovel the dirt and give you a few bucks. And so I was always that hustling type kid and had that mentality. Now, there are some things by the street that I may have not have done or wasn't the best thing for me to do. But again, it was about survival and about getting out. And even with me working at McDonald's, it still wasn't enough. My grandfather was bedstricken from a stroke, and my mother, again, was really just busting her hiney to really make ends meet. And so with that, I had to be the head of the household at some point, still playing high school football, trying to make a way out and doing what I was doing at McDonald's when I had the time during the summer times. So again, life wasn't easy. You talk about a corner to sleep in and a crust of bread to eat sometimes. Grilled cheese and sugar sandwiches was probably a delicacy for us at times. And the peanut butter in the big silver cans, it had a lot of oil in it when you opened it up. So those days will never be forsaken or forgotten for me. So she tried her best to make a way. And one summer, my uncle Roosevelt Lee, he was a military guy, and him and his wife came down, Joan Lee, and I'm thinking they're here for a regular visit. Now, mind you, by this time I've already graduated high school, around 89 or 90, and they came down for about a week-long visit. And at the end of that visit, my uncle said, "Hey, let's go take a walk, take a talk, have a talk." I said, "Okay." From there, we had this conversation that lasted maybe about 15 minutes. And the bottom line was, it's like, your mom wants you to leave. And that was probably a pivotal point in my life, because I was a part of a gang crew, because you didn't live in New Orleans without being a part of somebody's gang during those times. Not everyone was a part of it, but again, survival of the fittest. And the conversation didn't last long. It was like, you need to leave. She's afraid that you're going to be in jail or you're going to be found dead on the street. And at the rate that you're going, you're partying now, you're making some money, you're hanging out in the clubs, and you're hanging out, with a gang. And probably about a week later, I called my uncle and said, "Okay, I'll leave." At that point, he said, "We'll make arrangements." I'll never forget August 1991. I left New Orleans, and I did not leave. How can I say? in a good capacity, because the night before I was supposed to leave, the crew took me out and we went party. And lo and behold, we got into a big big fight with two other gangs in the club. People got thrown through the glass door window. The police were out there, and there were guns drawn in the middle of the street with the police officers. No shots fired, ironically. And they stood in the middle, telling us all to go our ways. Three men. I will never forget that night. And we're talking about at a level to where back then, many spoke about police corruption and police officers selling drugs and things of that nature. So many of us knew many of the police officers directly. And it was a time period, whereas that I I took my mom's advice and my uncle's advice and left. That night, I did punch someone, and I have the war wound to that. I broke the first finger, index finger here, by a punch that I threw, and they had to take me to the hospital that night. But yet the surgeon did not make it in time. Before I left, I said, "Mom, if I don't get on that train, I'm going to be in jail or dead, because we're going back to do what we need to do." And we left the hospital. They put my hand in a bandage and gave me some pills and put me on a train to Washington, D.C. And that's what happened, and moved me to that area in 1991. My uncle and I picked me up, and took me straight to the hospital, and I had surgery done on my hand by the time I got there. And from there, life just started to evolve. I still got into some trouble in the early days of living in Maryland, in Fort Washington, Maryland. And my uncle was just like, "Look, things happen. Okay, I get it, but we got to change. I'm not going to scold you, but you need to change. You've got to make the difference. You're hanging out with the wrong crew again." Started working at Heckinger's. I started working at Pizza Hut, 2 full-time jobs. Then from there, my cousin moved me into a law firm in the mailroom, and started to make my way up the ladder. And life just took over. So I'll stop right there. At least that's the pivotal point in change. And there's more that I can get into.
Absolutely. And I strongly recommend all our listeners and our community members to invest in buying your book. Do you want to show your book cover so that people see what that looks like?
Looks like this little guy right here. It's called
Ripping off the mask.
Ripping Off the Mask. And I
Mhm.
get into more in-depth details about those transitional changes in my life and the different personas that I took on to transform myself. No job was unbeknown to me. Um, Everything is about taking a stepping stone to the next level, a part of your life. That's where I transitioned into the whole entertainment world. Believe it or not, in DC, the home of male entertainment, um, was something that I did not believe I could do. And I perfected a skill of marketing myself through the rings of being a male exotic entertainer, while also working at a law firm as well.
That's interesting. Today, you're a CEO and a dad to a young daughter. We normally hear and talk about juggling work and family for women. So this is going to be a slightly different conversation, but the burdens are the same. And it is not easy for a father to raise a daughter, especially taking care of her needs, combing her hair, taking care of her kinky curls, and doing the different things. Just the hair part
Mhm.
could drive anybody nuts, because that's not something men do.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about how it feels and how you navigate the waters of being a CEO for a government contracting company
Mhm.
in the space of technology,
Yeah.
and being a father, a hands-on dad to a young girl.
Sure, absolutely. First and foremost, parenting, um, it's seeing it through, right? It's really seeing it through. There are going to be complications. There's going to be hard times, but you have to be profound. You have to be active, and you have to be present, whether a male or female. I take nothing away from mothers. Again, I was raised by a single mother, so men have to play an active and big role, and we've started to see that change in the last 20 years, and more prevalent now in the last 10 years. So for me, managing the government space, it's managing your business is 120, 130%, 200% to try and grow. And not many people understand the sacrifices that we go through. Um, and take that and add on the life of a father to a girl. Wow, how can I speak about that? There's so many avenues that I can take to drive that forward. And where I've been profound to promote women in corporate America, I took an active role with this beautiful young little princess here to start her on computers at the age of 2 years old. And if I had to go back at 4 years old, she crawled over my lap to hop on my computer. So I take great pride in being meticulous to try and drive her with every skill possible. Kids at this age are very fun. They're very open. They're very explorative. They suck up information like a sponge. And if you give it to them, they will take it. I love it. I've put books in front of her and I've read with her. I've put mathematics in front of her to help her work out the problems and put the computer in her, showed her how to type. I have not found a day since she was at the age of 1, 2 years old where she pounced on the keyboard. I've never seen her do that. She actually tried to mimic everything that she see me doing when I'm working with her on the weekends that she was coming up. So I love it. The hair part, that was my biggest challenge because I said, I'm going to conquer this. I know this is going to be hard. She has mixed grade hair. So I have to do this. YouTube became my best friend in figuring out styles of just watching women and some of the things that they were doing. So from 2-strand to 3-strand twists to braids to coming up with the Afro puff designs and different things that I do with her hair, it has spawned just something in me to just be proud of and to continue to perfect. I have had many people comment on our YouTube channel to say, hey, Joe, I've watched you over the years. You've started to perfect your lines and everything. So great job, Dad, type of thing. I have raised awareness to single fathers, not only here in the area, but globally, right? And with a lot of women followers on Facebook and on YouTube. So it is very enlightening, even to her being one of the church kids. We are faithfully at church before things became virtual. And even on Sunday mornings, we spend our time on our virtual session. We read our Bible once a night. She understands certain passages that we talk about from time to time. Manicures and pedicures. I do that as well. I sit her in a chair, as I've always done, and she just let me do what I'm going to do to make her look as pretty as she can.
That is so beautiful. And these are the things she's going to remember. These are the things she's going to remember. And she's going to know what to expect from a man and what a good man would do for her. So you're not only giving her love and raising her, you're teaching her what to accept and what not to settle for. Because that is what every girl needs growing up. Not that the dad had a great job and provided everything money could buy, but he was present.
Yeah.
And he showed her and taught her what those boundaries were and what not to settle for as girls, as women when we grow up. Our fathers have given us the boundaries, right? So no, you are doing an amazing job. If you were to have a word of wisdom, a nugget of wisdom for single fathers out there or fathers who are co-parenting with the mother while both juggling careers, what would that be?
Be present, set your boundaries, and sometimes saying less is best when you're dealing with a co-parenting situation. At times, documenting, and when I say documenting, not only the bad things, but the good things as well. You make note of that. Get involved with your kids. My daughter goes to the gym, and even though she goes to the playground area, when I'm done with my workouts, the gym administrators, they've known me for 20, 25 years at the same gym. So I take her into sort of the app section where there are a few little things machines, and there's an area where we can do a couple things. And I share that on my videos as well, of just spending that time to do exercises with her, and she loves it. So now that's going to take her further into life, right? When we get up in the morning, she fixes her bed. She knows that has been since pre-K. That has been in daycare school where the administrators would communicate, Mr. Lee, what are you doing with your daughter? Because she fixed her cot and she stands right next to it. So it's often things like that that is going to make the difference. And I would share that with all fathers. Just be present. I don't care if you have one day with your daughter, make the best of that day, plan out some things, right? Even if it goes awry, just at least have some type of agenda to go do certain things with her or him.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Jolie. I am going to open this up to our live audience. I know they have questions and thoughts to share, so let's take it away.
This is really fascinating. I mean, mind-blowing, actually. And in sharing your story, to me, it seemed like a real blend between people helping you and then you taking action and changing. And I've seen that the other direction where a lot of help is given and people haven't changed. And that help just, you just kind of wring your hands. What else can we do? So can you pinpoint something, so why is it that you changed and other people didn't or haven't? Can you see that combination between, was it maybe something about your uncle where you said, buddy, you got to change, and something that hit you? Because I'm sure that other people before then had told you that you need to change.
Yeah, absolutely. He invested the time, and he has always been there from afar. Even though I had what we know today as a godfather as well, that still was living in New Orleans, he's not the only one that played a major role in my life. So, because she had four brothers, so they all played some part of it. I stuck to Lee, and I was attracted to him because I think he took more of a personal and direct role. My godfather played a role in New Orleans. He took a role from afar. And finally, when I made that change to Maryland, it was like, Joe, you're out of a really bad situation, right? And we used to talk. And again, it wasn't the scolding part. It was just, hey, Bo, you've got to change, Hey, cut your foot off. Don't worry about it. It's going to grow back. He used to make these little sayings from time to time. Hey, you broke your finger. Don't worry about it. It's going to grow back. I'm like, I don't get what you're meaning when you say these things. Or, yeah, your head, just cut your neck off. It'll grow back. Don't worry about it. And he's like, things happen, but you have to change, and you are the keeper of your soul, and you have to make that. And I think people, it takes time for them to realize their situations, that they have to change their situations, not someone else. No one else can change your situation but you. We can give you the resources all day, and it's what you do with those resources to make a difference. And I think that's where I was in my time. And even today, most people will build their calendars, have their kids' calendars built around their calendars. I do it differently. Before I make decisions about my calendar, I find out what things I need to put on a calendar for her. Her calendar is color coded more than my calendar is right now. And I look at two calendars when I'm actually scheduling appointments. And like I said, today she was scheduled off. And when me and Dr. Cass were setting this up, I was looking at her calendar to see if I had her on that weekend. And so, and unfortunately, she is here just for a couple hours while her mom is at work. But those are the things that I do. And I've always said, Christmas, holidays, and birthdays, you're going to be present. So when that day comes that you are not present and you're not able to be present, then these are things that I'm going to work up to. And I constantly tell her, hey, someday I'm going to have to work and I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be at an event, but I want to be here every time that I get a chance to for you. I recently missed a Girl Scout event because I was out of town. I told her, hey, I'm not going to see you at the Girl Scout event. And she's like, oh, you have to work? I'm like, yeah, I have to work. So those things make a difference.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that question. And Jolie, that is amazing how you prioritize your priorities around your daughters, right? I
Yes.
wish all fathers would do that.
Yeah.
And that actually teaches her how she needs to prioritize her
Yeah.
loved ones in her life. So
Yeah.
you're teaching her. Plus, you and her mom are co-parenting. So she's also seeing that doesn't matter what's going on between the two of you, you both love her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that is the positive reinforcement no amount of money and material can buy. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
No,
Go ahead,
appreciate that.
Susan.
Hi, Jolie. Nice to see you here in this format, and just really impressive to hear your story and inspirational as a mother of a son, and the importance of showing men that they need to be able to be everything, both emotionally, physically, the whole ball of wax. And I wonder with your daughter, um, how inspiring it must be for her, because, I know how much I loved and my father inspired me and instilled so many important things in me that are in my core to this day. So the foundation that you're giving her and the love is just irreplaceable, because I think you realize this, we all realize this. Time is the most valuable thing we have. It is the absolute most valuable thing we have, and you can never go back, you know. Um, how do you prepare yourself from both the time and with your daughter going into adolescence, knowing the challenge that will be? Because right now I see this person, this man, this soul whose communication is so patient and so understanding. How do you think that will change when she becomes an adolescent?
Well, I'm hoping by not much. I'm sure that probably won't happen. I think to me, it's staying prepared. Um, I'm very engaging with her teachers right now. So we know what homework looks like. Every day she comes home when she's sharing her time with me on Mondays and Tuesdays and every other weekend, as she shares her time on Wednesdays and Thursdays with her, and every other weekend with her mother. But I'm in constant contact with her teachers, like, what's the workload look like for this week? And what's the calendar look like? All those things are ironed out. So the challenges are going to be with people. I'll give you a perfect example. Whereas at one point, she's 6 now, and she'll be 7 in about 3 weeks. So between the ages of birth to 4, when kids used to kind of just push her away or take things from her, she would just put her head down, and solemn little girl, right? And she would not fight back, or she would not say, "Hey, no, that's mine." And I've helped her develop that. Taekwondo that I put her in has helped build her confidence very greatly. It also has helped with discipline on the other side of the scale. So you just have to be prepared, and you have to think about the unexpected. It's just like with cybersecurity. We do not know what a hacker is going to do today. We have to do our best to be prepared and to be resilient. So I have to take those skills and knowledge and my knowledge in that area to transition that to fatherhood too as well. What are the unexpected things that I can probably list, or things that may or may not occur in her life and in my life as she grows, right? So I have to prepare her for certain things that you're not going to do as a little girl. You have to cross your leg when you sit in a chair. And I have been doing it, and I'm seeing it come out more and more with her. Sometimes we take a photo in a car, and I see her when I'm getting ready to snap the picture. She has crossed her leg when we prepare to take this picture. So those things make me smile. Some things that have happened since the age of 4 with her. From time to time when she's here, I have been training her to stay in her bedroom and to stay in her bed. Sometimes at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, she'll wake up and she's in my bed. But I have found where I have wakened before, and she's covering me up before she gets under the covers. And that has made me so happy. As of the last couple of weeks, when we have had dinner, she has actually picked up the plate and gone to the and washed the dishes. So it's great. And then just last week for Memorial Day, um, I made all the food, and she came in here and set the table. So those things are transitioning, and I'm seeing it come out of her. So, you just have to be prepared as best as you can.
Yeah. How do you feel? Just one quick question. How do you feel as about her, and what age do you think it's appropriate for her to have a digital presence? Or are you concerned about the threats of her being visible in the digital world?
So yes and no. And I think that's where I'm still being present to prepare her of what to do, what not to do, what not to answer, what things not to click on. Because she's had a Chromebook since she was 3. And so she's becoming familiar of where to go on the internet. And basically it's to her games for right now. The YouTube channel is the one thing that we stay on together, where we do little interview sessions, where I do her hair, where we do our little routines for Taekwondo and things of that nature. But again, I'm constantly talking to her about the bad world of the internet. So I think she'll be good. But again, this is where there's a hurdle in custody matters, right? Whether there's conflict or not. One parent is not going to do the same as the other parent. So I try to monitor as best as I can. I try to coach and teach as best as I can. And that happens all the time, whether it's sitting in the car, whether she's on her tablet. Dad, I finished the 3 programs for IXL, a program that they use for school. What can I watch? Okay, you can go watch Adley. Okay, you can go watch Bluey, and things of that nature. But other videos and things I try to monitor and say, hey, here's the reasons why you should not. When we sit down and watch television shows, sometimes they're kid-friendly shows, but there are acts of um, potential crime or attacks against kids, and I'm constantly talking with her about those type of things.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing so deeply, and great question, Susan. So, Jolie, as we bring this to a close, take a moment and share with our audience how they can get a hold of you
Sure.
and where they can purchase your book, because I really want them to get their hands on your book
Yeah.
so that they can do a deep dive and then maybe follow up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. My book is published on Amazon right now for the digital ebook and the paperback book. Please go out to Ripping Off the Mask. If you put that in, it's still trending. Once you put that in, it will come up with my face on the front cover, as you've seen it here, Ripping Off the Mask. You can get it on Amazon. Also, my website is up. It's called Jolie Writes, like writing your own documentary, right? JolieWrites.com. You can find it there too for direct copies that you can purchase there, or you can purchase bundle buys at a discounted rate. I am located on Facebook. We're setting up the social media pages as we speak now, for a secondary YouTube page that's geared toward me and my life, as opposed to just me and my daughter's life, that I'm keeping that separate from my personal business life as I move forward. So the Facebook page is up. You also can find me on Facebook, Jolie, Virginia Beach, going forward. So we will have further information put out there. You can find me on those channels and just click the contact us links on JolieWrites.com.
Thank you so much, Jolie. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I know this is going to be a different kind of a viewing and listening for our audience, because this is coming from a father's perspective. Not many fathers are open to sitting down and having this conversation.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you for doing it, because the more fathers are willing to talk, the better insights and blueprints fathers have, right?
Yeah.
We only get better through dialogue and taking perspective and taking lessons from other people's experience.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
appreciate you.
I thank you all for having me today, and for fathers all over the place. We are into Father's Day month coming up soon. So again, just be active, and don't be afraid to share those times where you're having problems. Sometimes when my daughter is not here, I get into a procrastination mode, where I might binge, but then I get myself right back up, 2 hours later. Or I reach out to friends and say, hey, you're working on X, Y, and Z. I was thinking about moving forward with some other solicitations and proposals. That has been a big help. And then we start other conversations. So it is good to talk. Open up, guys. Open up.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Cass, if I may close with this final thought and final word. Just over the last 2 weeks, I just received notification from a man in Hawaii. that I made an impact on his life. And he was just recently awarded custody of his daughter. The guidance that I provided him, the tips and tricks, the template that I provided him as a journal that he should prepare to give to his attorney as events happen and erupt in his life. Those things seem to have helped him. And I do have a message from him that just said, Jolie, you talked me off an edge where I was really ready to just unleash on her mom. But just listening to you and some of the things that you told me to do or not do, it helped me. And now I have custody of my daughter.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's all we want for our children, right? We don't want them to watch us fight with their other parent.
Yep.
We want them to experience harmony. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
And thank you to our audience. And to our audience out there, you heard Jolie talk about the importance of being present in your children's life. Whether they are sons or daughters, the time you spend with them is what's going to shape them, not what you bought for them, not the vacations or the type of house you provided for them, but the actual time and bonding you had with them. So if we want our children to get their lives just right, let's make sure we invest in them the time and effort so that they can get it just right by watching us doing everything we can to get it just right.